Good morning and welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily with me, Chris Perugine, and Julian Bonici. How are you, Julian? Good
Hi,
morning.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. The weekend flew past, or rather, like trail past, because we had very little to do. But all in all, not too bad. What about yourself?
Not bad, not bad. I kept my social distancing up, went for a walk or two, but that's about it.
So I'll just do a rundown of the headlines. But actually, before that, let's start with Bold Food. So as you know, Lovin Daily is brought to you by Bold Food, amazing app that lets you deliver food at home, basically. What's your favorite Bold Food restaurant, Julian?
Well, you know me, Chris. I have no concept of health, so it's always McDonald's. Some
I
chicken nuggets and a Euro burger always works well for me. And you?
I This weekend I got Miracle Foods delivered to my house. I got some bacon delivered for breakfast. So quite a big fan of that. Guys, just to remind you, we've got this competition going. All you need to do to win €50 to spend on Bolt Food. That's a really nice dinner or meal for two at least. All you need to do is write your favorite restaurant in the comments. So last Friday we had Julia who mentioned Drift Cafe in Tallybrach. And so she wins €50 from Bold Food. So all you need to do as we go through the program, just write down your favorite Bold Food restaurant, tell us why you love them, and you'll be in with a good chance to win. So I just want to go through the day's headlines now. Just give me a second. Let's put the ticker up there. So today we'll start with what's happening at the Hal-Far Open Centre. As we know, there were 8 COVID cases registered in Hal-Far, so now that's the whole centre is in quarantine. Spring hunting season was open. A controversial decision by the government. We'll be discussing that as well. We'll give an update on the situation in terms of COVID-19 in general in Malta. So we have 3 more recoveries, a total number of cases of 227, but no deaths. And we'll speak about why that's quite significant statistically as well. Malta's fuel prices are still very high despite oil plummeting. And we had a driver injured in Melli after a bit of a truck rampage. So, Ju, maybe you can start by telling us about the first story, what's happening in Hal-Far.
Okay, so as you mentioned, Chris, so I think probably the biggest story of the weekend was that Malta placed the Hal-Far Open Centre under quarantine for 2 weeks. This came after 8 residents tested positive for COVID-19 and within 24 hours, or give or take. Obviously, within the Open Centre, there are about 1,200 people who live in there, relatively in close contact. They share the same bathroom, some of them share the same room. So obviously there's quite large concern that a major outbreak could happen within the Open Centre. Obviously that would create an even extra burden on the healthcare system that it just can't take at the moment. So this announcement came last night. Basically, Health Minister Chris Fern said that the decision had been taken after a risk assessment showed that the virus actually threatens to spread to the entire centre. Malta Red Cross has even opened up a makeshift clinic, and residents who have already tested positive have been segregated from the rest of the camp. The police will continue monitoring the area, while the residents who live in the centre themselves have been encouraged not to go to work. Employers have been told that basically if they continue employing people who are residents of the Hull Centre, they'll be effectively breaking the law themselves.
I think one of the aspects of this story as well is the kind of reaction it had on social media, right? As in there were, even though I guess this is something, COVID is something that affects everybody indiscriminately, and obviously having a large number of people in one center, then it's no surprise that something like this is going to happen in the center. But there were lots of comments that verged on racism and things like that. And today, actually, I think it's worth mentioning, today is the 1-year anniversary since Lassana Cisse was killed in Hal-Far in what is believed to be a racist murder. I think we'll be resharing the documentary Lovin Malta did about Lassana. We had gone to Ivory Coast to meet his family, and I think it's just like, we really need to make sure that we have learned the lesson over there, and we don't, just start being, racist as soon as, a migrant gets found test positive for COVID, But anyway, we can move on to the next story. Controversial decision by the government to open the spring hunting season between the 10th and the 30th of April. Obviously, not permitting those who are older than 65 or who are vulnerable, particularly vulnerable to COVID, and restricted to quails. Look, I think spring hunting is always going to be controversial. To me, it's something that is just barbaric in general, the concept of hunting, even though I must confess to enjoying eating quail. I think one of the issues behind this is the sort of message it sends, right, to the public, that everyone else is having to lock themselves down, but hunters are somehow privileged. But I think it must be said as well that hunting is generally quite a solitary activity, right? So even though even if you hate the concept of hunting in general, in terms of COVID, it shouldn't be this isn't a group activity, so this is something that can technically be done within the realms of what's allowed today, right? What do you think, Julian?
Yes, I do think you're right that the activity definitely can be solitary, but I think a big issue a lot of people are missing is that the administrative law enforcement, who actually is meant to sort of oversee hunting regulations, actually is pretty busy overseeing COVID-19 measures. So I think even you could admit, Chris, or even a general hunter could admit that even though just quail or turtle dove in the past were meant to be hunted, at oftentimes protected birds are shot, and at oftentimes with sort of no consequence. With now the ALE focused on COVID-19, and not many people in the countryside, I think we can only stand to reason that illegalities are only going to grow. And I think that should be a major concern over here.
And when there's illegalities, there's going to have to be enforcement anyway. So sort of this just puts an extra strain on the enforcement's arm. Talking about COVID-19, Ju, maybe you can give us a rundown of the figures we got throughout the weekend.
Yes, on Saturday, I believe there were 11 cases, and on Sunday there were 14 new cases. This has brought the total up to 227. Obviously a large number, but there has been some positive news. Yesterday, three more people recovered from the virus. That means there are 5 people who have recovered so far, which at least, things are getting better, and we are yet to have a fatality. Now, Malta is, I think only the Philippines.
Vietnam. I think only Vietnam is a country that has registered as many cases as us with no fatalities. So I think on that front, Malta has been doing well so far. The healthcare system is obviously managing to cope with the number of cases we've got so far. So yeah, I guess that's some good news, even though the numbers keep rising.
But obviously, I think we should also make it clear that just because there's good news doesn't mean this is all over. So please continue respecting social distancing, even if the number of cases drop. It's very easy for another outbreak to emerge again, another major outbreak, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Thanks again to everyone who's commenting, leaving your bold food suggestions as well. Keep it going. So the next story is about something that affects our pockets this time, right? So Malta's fuel prices. So Oil globally has gone down to an 18-year historical low of $20 per barrel, and yet Maltese prices in terms of petrol and diesel are still very high. I think we're the third highest in Europe, and we're paying 18 cents petrol higher than the average, 13 cents diesel higher than the average, and our prices are basically reflecting on what they were in August 2019. And that's because of hedging, right? Drew, can you give us a bit of an explanation on that?
Yes. Okay. So essentially, back into 2013, Malta's fuel prices often fluctuated according to the market rates. Now, the government back then, which was headed by Joseph Muscat, had entered into an agreement to introduce with, I think it was the Azerbaijanis, for an 18-year agreement. Basically, that would have kept our price of fuel the same for 18 years. Now, obviously, that would have introduced stability into the market, but it's pretty much backfired because ever since then, the price of oil has actually dropped, fuel has dropped regularly, and Malta is oftentimes actually paying well above the market average across the EU. I think actually at the moment we are paying 18 cents higher than the average across the EU per barrel. So, I mean, that people's pockets are definitely going to feel it.
Yeah. And I guess we need to kind of, I don't know, something like this is something that cannot really change, I guess, right? Until there is this deal going on. Obviously, this deal has the framework and the background behind it, which is a story that we haven't been following in a while now because of what's happening with COVID. But as we know, the Daphne Caruana Galizia assassination was, the person charged with her assassination is Jürgen Fenech, one of the directors in Power Station. Anyway, there's this whole background towards our relationship with fuel in Malta. Talking about fuel and driving, we had a bit of a crazy story as well, right? I'll just pull up the video while you introduce it, Drew.
Okay, so essentially, for those who didn't follow, there were a couple of videos that emerged of a truck driver sort of running amok through the streets of Melleha. He collided into cars, crashed in front of the hotel, and endangered the public in general. The actual sort of rampage began from Chirkowa all the way up to Melleha's main road by the church. And at a point, I mean, the video's quite surreal once you get to watch it. At a point, he actually is driving on the opposite side of the road. He has to dodge another car. A tire's missing. It's a bit GTA Malta style. So if you can see a video up.
Part of it over here. The driver is a 29-year-old who was injured and had to be taken out of the car by the truck by the Civil Protection Department. And we also spoke to two people who said that they were lucky to be alive because this thing, almost hit them. Here we go. The accident that was going on. So, as we know, a lot of road rage in Malta nowadays. Nowadays, probably even more than often, even though there's fewer cars on the road. Everyone is still quite tense. We actually don't know what led to this. We know that there was this issue of there being a tire left in Chirkowa and something like that, but the police are still investigating what went on. But that's just an update from Malta's roads, even when they're empty. So that brings us to the end of our show today. Happy Monday to anyone who's keeping track. Just a reminder again about our competition with Bold Food. All you need to do is list your favorite restaurant below. Your favorite restaurant from Bold Food below, and tell us why you love them, and we'll choose you to be a winner where you get €50 to spend on the Bold Food app. Ju, I guess that's it from us, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's it. And have a day full of loving, I suppose.
Have a day full of loving. See you
Yeah.
see you tomorrow.